Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a special presentation, all open, talking about everything Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse spoiler discussion. So here's what we're going to do on today's video, guys. I'm going to spend a few minutes myself just talking about the things I loved about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Maybe some of the things maybe they could have done a little bit better, and I'm going to talk in spoiler details, but really that's only going to be for a couple of minutes, because then what I really want to do is go to the live chat. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I know you guys have seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and you're dying to talk about the things that you love, but you don't want to do it in an open forum to spoil it for anybody. That's what this video is for. So, in case you can't tell by the title of this video and by what I just said, this is going to be full of spoilers. So if you have not yet seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or you don't want to know what the spoilers are in it, click pause now. Add this video to your favorites or something. Come back and watch it later, because we are going to go into a lot of spoilers here, so you have been warned. That being said, let me share a couple of thoughts here. I love this movie. For you guys who saw the John Campea show earlier today, I gave my top 5 comic book movies of the year. My number 1 comic book movie of the year, above Deadpool 2, above Avengers Infinity War, is this movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is my favorite comic book movie of the year. One of my overall favorite movies of the year. I was not looking forward to it. I thought this movie was not a bad idea, but not a great idea from the start, and I didn't like the first trailer. The other trailers kind of got me on board. I got on board with the other trailers, and I liked hearing a lot of the positive things I was hearing from other people, but even then my expectations were reserved. Let's say that. So pleasantly surprised how good it was. And you know, I think I knew we were in for something special when they started the movie, like with the Spider-Man, and we had the Chris Pine Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff. Man, when they killed Spider-Man, even though I knew another Spider-Man was going to come into this universe, the Jake Johnson Spider-Man, even though to me it was still incredibly powerful. It's the first time I had ever seen Spider-Man die on screen. I'd never seen it before. And even though I knew we had Jake Johnson's Spider-Man coming, it was still remarkably moving for me at that point. It was still remarkably moving for me seeing that. The Kingpin design I thought was great. And not only the design, like this huge, monstrous, blobus kind of thing, but that's actually kind of in tone with the spirit of the comics as well. And I really dug the way they did it. But one of the things I really loved about Kingpin was they delved into his motivation. They could have very easily just gone, why is Kingpin doing this evil stuff? Well, because he's Kingpin. You know, you could have easily done that. But instead, they made it about Vanessa and his kid. He's a guy who went through an incredible loss, even if it was his own fault. He went through an incredible loss, an incredible pain, and he's not trying to destroy the universes. He's just trying to get his wife and his kid back. And the fact that they even just gave us those moments to see that in the antagonist, I think is one of the many things that took this movie up to another level. I love the Aunt May appearance being voiced by Lily Tomlin. I thought they did a great job with the Aunt May. The whole giving Spider-Man his own Batcave was great. I love the way they used the Spider-Ham and Spider-Woman and Patty Parker, and the way they integrated all of them in, I thought was a lot of fun. I thought the relationship between Miles and Gwen was remarkably sweet, and I do not like romance in my comic book movies. You guys know this. But I still thought the nature of the relationship between them was incredibly sweet. I could go on and on all day about all the incredible ways I thought this movie was remarkable. I love the turn with the uncle as the Prowler. That was great. There's so much. And I love the female Dr. Octavius. Like when she's sitting in the chair and goes, what's your name again? I'm Dr. I forget her first name. Let's just say Olivia. I'm Dr. Olivia Octavius. The theater I was in when she said Octavius, Everybody in the theaters, like it was obviously a very well-educated, comic book educated audience, because as soon as he said Octavius, everybody in the theater that I was in was like, what? And then, of course, the arms. It was great. And they're all cower before Kingpin. And just so many damn waves, and the action was great. I wasn't big on the animation style. You guys know this. I wasn't super huge on the animation style, and that's fine. I know a lot of you guys love it, and that's great. But to me, it didn't matter. The story and the characters are so bloody wonderful. I just could not get enough of this damn movie. Could not get enough of it. I might even go watch it again tonight, for heaven's sakes. Just completely floored by it. But anyway, that's just me. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your observations about the film. I want to hear your questions. Maybe you had questions about it. Let's go over that now. That's the important thing about these spoiler discussions. Not what I have to say, what you guys have to say. So let's go over right now and pull that up. And where did it go? I had it here just a second ago. Here we go. All right. So our first live thing comes to us from Fan Productions writes, my favorite movie of the year, hashtag Spider-Bells. I mean, I still think movies like A Quiet Place, movies like Black Klansman, I think those might still be above. But I'll tell you what, this Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse comic book animated film may be in my top 3. I'll be shocked if it's not in my top 5, but it may even be my top 3. I mean, it's just that good. Forget that it's animated. Forget that it's a comic book movie. It's a great movie. And I think, a lot of people like you are going to come out of here going, you know what, this wasn't just really fun and wonderful. This is one of my favorite movies of the year. And we're hearing a lot of people calling it their favorite movie of the year, period. That's how special this little movie is. Anyway, Casinema Reviews writes, we've now seen Spidey twice in 1 year, and 3 times if you want to count the video game. Which I know that's a different thing. But if you want to count the video, somebody on the John Campea show wrote in the other day saying, this is like Spider-Man's year. We had, first of all, I just jump back to last year. We had Spider-Man Homecoming. We got Spider-Man in Avengers Infinity War now in this year. But then we also had like one of the most celebrated games of the year is the Spider-Man video game. And now we get Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's nuts. Curtis Lopez writes, Spider-Verse is my favorite movie of the year. See? Is my favorite movie of the year. The original Peter's death had some Death of Superman vibes to it. A little bit. Again, I was just taken aback by it, I think. I was fortunate enough that I didn't have it spoiled for me that Spider-Man dies. Now, as soon as I heard the voice of that Spider-Man, I'm like, well, that's not Jake Johnson. So clearly there's going to be another, Jake Johnson's Spider-Man is from another universe. But I didn't know that Spider-Man was going to die. Or John, in the comics, yeah, but these aren't the comics. These are the movies. I didn't know. So even though you could see it coming, I didn't know. And when it happened, again, like I said, a Spider-Man dying is nothing I've ever seen. We've never seen that on screen before. And it was so moving on that. And I think you're right. There were a little bit of Death of Superman vibes to it as well. Just, no Doomsday. Curtis follows up with, the Stan Lee cameo was great. It was wonderful. It was great. The suit always fits. I love that line. That was great. And, it's weird when you think about it, but I mean, obviously they made that when he was still alive. They made that fully expecting that Stan Lee was going to be sitting in theaters with us all and seeing that. They did, but if 10 years from now, people watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and don't really remember the timing of when Stan Lee passed away, you would watch this and think, oh, this was a great tribute to Stan Lee that they made. No, they made this when he was still alive, but it was a great cameo for sure. I loved it. It was wonderful. Let's see. Casinema writes, wouldn't have thought Chris Pine for Spidey, but thumbs up. I mean, yeah, you're like me. And did you notice the misdirect from the trailers? Because when in the trailers, when Peter Parker first meets Miles Morales and goes, you're like me, that was Jake Johnson's voice in the trailers. So that was clearly a little bit of Sony doing some misdirecting, because then you see it in the movie, oh, and it's Chris Pine doing the voice. Little bit of misdirection. Sony taking a few pages out of the Marvel playbook, which was good and which was great because it really added to the movie experience for me, not knowing that. And I thought that worked out well. And yeah, it fit well. It fit really well. Javier Riaz writes, where's Javier? There he is. Javier writes, great movie, visuals, humor, and story were great. Hopefully it does good at the box office for a sequel. Well, hopefully it does good enough. Now look, we talked about this on the John Campea show earlier today. The movie made $35 million in its opening weekend. Now, in the age of Infinity War and things like that, that sounds like nothing because, we're so accustomed to $180 million opening. But remember, this is an animated superhero film. And I gave the examples. The only other couple of true comic book animated superhero movies were Batman Into the Phantasm, which made $1.1 million in its opening weekend, and Teen Titans Go, that made $10 million in its opening weekend. It also, Robert Meyer Burnett brought up a great point on the John Campea show today, reminding us all that, hey, everybody's already seeing live action Spider-Man right now. So that works against it as well. I never thought this movie would even make $35 million. I think $35 million is a great opening for it. And it is what they were projecting. Now, can it have legs? The big challenge Spider-Man's going to face, box office-wise, is the fact that we're heading into another weekend where Bumblebee and Aquaman open. And that's going to be challenging. I expect Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse will probably take like a 60% drop. Just because there's these other two also wonderful movies, by the way. Bumblebee is great. Not as great as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Aquaman, really fun. Not as fun as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but they're both really big, solid movies with huge marketing campaigns behind them, and they're going to eat up a lot of the box office. So it's going to see what happens. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this movie gets somewhere close to the box office results that it deserves, because this is one of the best movies of the year, and I'm so happy for it. Hector Jeter writes, holy crap, I loved it. Great story. Love the characters. Very well done. Taking my sisters and nephew tomorrow. Can't wait to see their reactions. And Hector, that is one of my favorite things in the world, is watching a movie I love with people who haven't seen it yet. That is one of my absolute favorite things in the world to do. Whether it's with family or friends, whatever, I love doing that. And to have a movie that's this kind of special, and for you to have sisters and a nephew and everything that you can take just to enjoy their reactions, that's wonderful. That's great. So I hope you have a great time again, and I hope your sisters and your nephew have a great time too, man. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Hector follows up with, loved how big Kingpin was. Cracked me up every time. I've heard some people actually criticize the design of Kingpin, but it's an animated thing. It's Kingpin. Of course you got to draw him that way. I thought it was perfect. And you're right, it cracked me up every single time. Like even from a distance, when Miles is looking at from a distance from behind and he's walking beside two other people and he's like the size of Optimus Prime, right? And everybody else is like kind of tiny walking beside him. But in animation, you can make the visuals match the personality of the person. This big, ominous, overshadowing individual in Kingpin, they drew him that way physically as well. And that's something you can do in animated films that you can't always do in live action films, right? And Hector, I love the design of Kingpin. I really did. I thought it was great. All right. Ben Rayner writes, so that Chris Pine Peter, the one that died, are we supposed to think that's the Raimi's Peter Parker, Toby? Because I think that, no, not at all, not in the least. Remember, two things to keep in mind. Number one, this is not tied to the live action movies at all. But number two, even if it was, remember, Chris Pine Peter Parker was the Peter Parker of Miles Morales' universe, right? In Miles Morales' universe, Coca-Cola is called Coca with a K, Coca Soda. So remember, they did little things in Miles' universe to show us that wasn't our universe. If any of the Spider-Men were our Spider-Man from our live action films, it would have been the Jake Johnson one. But even though they did some things and showed that Jake Johnson did some things that our live-action Spider-Man movies did, that was just a wink of the eye. That wasn't a literal connection. That's not the same Spider-Man. This is a different Spider-Man. The animated thing's a different universe. But even if there was a connection between one of them, it wouldn't have been the Chris Pine one, because his universe is one that's very different from ours. So anyway, there's just something to keep in mind. Ben Rayner writes, I think Schnepp would have loved Aunt May. I think Schnepp would have loved this whole movie. I think he would have loved this whole movie. I put out a tweet the other day, because there were certain things that happened in the movie that I remember specifically Schnepp talking about not that Schnepp knew what happened in this movie, not at all. I just remember that we're very reminiscent, and Robert and I were talking about this off camera earlier today. And I remember I put up a tweet saying there were just a couple of moments in that movie when I just thought to myself a couple times, holy shit, Schnepp would have loved this movie. He would have loved this. And yes, I completely agree. He would have loved Aunt May. Let's see. Jorge Sosa writes, had to drag my wife to see the movie. Now if I have another son, his name will be Miles. Great movie. You know what? I almost had to drag myself to it. Like, I liked the last trailer, and I was I was intrigued by all the positive word of mouth I was hearing. Great, yeah. But I wasn't super enthusiastic about it. I knew I had to see it because everybody's talking so big. I knew I had to see it, but man, it is one of those movies that I think a lot of people might get dragged to go seeing it, like your wife. But I'm going to bet, that your wife probably enjoyed it too. I think everybody's going to enjoy this movie, man. Just spectacular, no pun intended, from start to finish. And you know what? You mentioned you might name your son Miles. I said this on the John Campea show earlier today. I never even liked the Miles Morales character. I read a few things in the comics with Miles Morales. Gave up on it. Not interested in him. Not at all. This movie made me a Miles Morales fan. And I think it's going to make a lot of people fans. Even people that gotta get dragged to see it, like your wife, Jorge. Thanks for sharing that, dude. All right. Hector Jeter writes, let's see. So I take it from the end that Gwen is able to communicate with Miles through dimensions. Hope so, because I'd love a sequel to be made. Yeah, I mean, that to me was very odd, but intriguing. Odd, but intriguing. That Gwen Stacy was able to open up a portal to the different dimensions and universe when Kingpin had to make this gigantic, elaborate, huge building size superconductor and collider, super collider to make that happen. Gwen Stacy can just snap a finger and do it. So I don't know. I got to admit, that seemed a little too convenient for me at the end, that she could just open up a portal. Hey, Miles, I know it made the audience feel good that, Miles and Gwen can still talk, but I don't know, felt a little odd. Regardless, they're going to make a sequel. And I don't think they needed to show her doing that portal thing to do a sequel. But, man, I am lined up for it. And they're already talking about it. Here's just hoping, fingers crossed, that it financially does well enough that they can justify doing it. I really hope so. All right. Edgar Navarro writes, saw this with my nephew and we loved it. The uncle-nephew relationship really hit hard, even made my nephew want to cry because of what happened to Aaron. That Aaron character is not just some side throwaway character. The uncle was such a part of the heart of the film. Because I'll tell you what, one of the best scenes to me wasn't just, Miles' reaction to Uncle Aaron, but was Miles' dad's reaction to finding his brother dead. And then the dad, the first thing is to go and make my relationship right with my son. Oh my God. It's just on an emotional level. It was so well drafted, so well. The architecture of it was perfect, was absolutely perfect. And they always gave you just the right amount of emotion. And that Uncle Aaron character, I think his biggest contribution wasn't even being the Prowler. It was that the loss of him and the emotional triggers that gave the story and the emotional triggers that then passed on to the audience. That's what I think the Uncle Aaron character's biggest contribution was. And I just ate that up, Edgar. I just ate that up. Such a great character and such a great dynamic between them. It was so nice. I'm glad you recognize that as well. All right. Murray Reich writes, Stan Lee cameo in Spider-Man Shop was so good. It was so good. And again, it's almost like they did it in memory of Stan Lee, but you got to remember, they did it when Stan Lee was still alive, thinking he was going to be alive when they did it. It was perfect. And that one line that somebody else quoted a little bit earlier, Murray, the suit always fits. Such a great line for that. Such a great line. All right. Murray follows up with, the Spider Pig was funny. Do animals talk in this dimension? Because I don't want to freak him out. John Mulaney, and by the way, it's not Spider Pig, it's Spider Ham. Spider Pig is the Simpsons thing. Don't worry. I said it all the time myself too, so don't worry about it. But this isn't Spider Pig, it's Spider Ham. Peter Porker, the Incredible Spider Ham. It can get weirder. And John Mulaney doing the voice is great. John Mulaney is one of Anne's favorite comedians right now. And yeah. Look, I'm glad that the movie didn't spend more time on Gwen or more time on Peter Porker or more time on Patty Parker or more time on Noir or more time on anything else. They needed the lion's share of the time to be on Miles and Peter, and I'm glad they did. But man, one of the things I'd look forward to a sequel was definitely seeing more Spider-Ham. I would definitely buy in and see more of that. Tacky75 writes, not just a family film, but a film about family. Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought, honestly, that scene when Miles's dad comes to his dorm room and talks to him through the door, I thought it was one of the most emotionally real scenes I've seen in a movie all year. And the way the dad just poured his heart out, but was giving Miles his space, like not insisting on an answer, not barging through the door. There was something so emotionally resonant with that entire scene. And that's just kind of indicative of the way the movie handled the emotional element throughout the film. You know what I mean? And I just loved it, and it was, so good. And also, yeah, it's about family. All right. Peter Hong writes, some really good songs on the soundtrack, especially Scared of the Dark, which played in that powerful scene when Spider-Man's death is announced on TV. You know what, Peter? I have had several people mentioning to me that they love the soundtrack. And I stop and go, you know what? I don't even remember the soundtrack. I was so wrapped up in the movie itself, I didn't even pay much attention to the soundtrack. And now I feel bad about that because like yourself, Peter, and a number of other people are telling me, man, the soundtrack was so good. And it's like, if I needed an excuse to go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse again, that's it. I got to go. That, and I never stuck around for the post-credit scenes. I never stuck around for the post-credit scenes because I didn't think there would be any. And now I'm hearing just post-credit scenes, so I got to go back and stick around for those, I suppose. But anyway, yes, I got to go back, listen more to the soundtrack because I guess I was just too wrapped up in the movie that I wasn't even listening to the music. Peter follows off with, casting was A-OK, Mulaney, Shamik, and Johnson, all great. I'm telling you what, Lily Tomlin as Aunt May, Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. I mean, the voices were great. And the lead was perfect. And you know what? I will admit, as much as I'm a fan of Jake Johnson from his work on New Girl, I didn't know if he was the right pick to be Peter Parker. I just didn't see it. Because when I first saw the trailer with him speaking, all I saw was his character from New Girl in a Spider-Man mask. But 1 minute after he was in the movie, that all went away. And I just heard him as a great Peter Parker. And you're right, man. The voice casting was spot on for this. They did a terrific job with getting the right personalities in there. And it just resonated through the whole film. So totally right about that, Peter. All right. Let's see. Hector Jeter writes, what do you think of the female Doc Ock? I love the female Doc Ock. Love the female Doc Ock. And I don't know how much of that is because of like the audience that, like I said, the audience, she says her names. Again, I can't remember her first name. Let's just say Olivia. Dr. Olivia Octavius. And then it was like, and the whole theater's like, what? It was a great reaction. I really liked the character. I liked her a lot. Marie Seifring writes, Aunt May, I said take it outside. She has a pretty mean swing moving from AAA to the majors next spring. I loved kind of badass Aunt May. I love that. Which, and you figure, if you have an Aunt May, number one, who's lived what she's lived through, she's already tough. But if you had a universe where Aunt May knows Peter is Spider-Man, Yeah, she probably toughened up a bit too. Pretty toughened up a bit too. And just the reaction, I love the scene when our universe's Peter sees Miles' universe's Aunt May, and both of them have that reaction because Jake Johnson's Aunt May died in his universe, and her Peter died in this universe. And the way I'm getting chills just thinking about it, guys. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. The way that scene when they first see each other, they know, he knows that's not his Aunt May. She knows that's not her Peter, but it doesn't matter. And played it so well. I loved that, Marie. Anyway, Marie also writes, I'd never seen Penny Parker before. Was that anime? Well, I mean, the style was anime. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I've never heard of Penny Parker. I think I've been calling her Patty Parker. You're right. It is Penny Parker, I think. Anyway, I don't know if they just made her up. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I should know this, but I don't. So I'm just being honest with you. I don't know if I just assumed they made her up for the movie. So maybe she was in something before, but I think you and me are on the same page here, Maria. I've never heard of her. I just assumed they made her for the movie, but maybe some of you guys can jump in the comments section and let us know otherwise. Jack Leo writes, that's all, folks. Can he say that? Like, legally? Favorite line in the movie. Dude, what I loved about it was, I've been going on about how what makes this movie so special was the fact that they got away from the animated part of it. And they got away from the superhero part of it. And they just focused on making a great movie with emotional weight and great characters and a great story. But they didn't ignore all that other stuff, and they had some definite Peter Parker humor in there. One of my favorite lines, like, can he say that legally? I mean, that line was great. One of the other best lines, though, in the movie, Peter and Miles have snuck into the science lab. And they duck into the cafeteria where all those other scientists are. And they all pull their guns. And you hear one scientist yell, "Get him!" And then if you listen very carefully, you hear another scientist yell, "He took a bagel!" I nearly died when I heard this. Get them! He took a bagel! I nearly died. I thought that was some of the funniest shit I had heard all day. That was great. But yes, that's all, folks. Can he say that, like, legally? That was premium. That was great Spider-Man kind of humor right there, and it was really great. Murray Reich writes, if this film makes money, could we see Venom in the sequel? I mean, it's the animated stuff, so they could if they wanted to. They could use Venom in the anime, because Venom's under their purview. They can do whatever they want with Venom. They can have him in the live action, they can put him in anime, they can do whatever. So it's something that they could do. But given the nature that Sony has kind of reshaped Venom into this, anti-hero kind of character. Do you bring him into the Spider-Verse and make him the villain? Does that send mixed messages of your IP? I don't know. So could they? I think they could. Should they and would they? I don't know. I don't know if that would be the right move for them at this point, but we just have to see. DC Patience writes, I love the arc of Peter B. Parker. He doesn't have to be afraid of being a good dad. He's already a loving, protective, good guy. You know what? I just love the way they handled all of them. Whether it's the family stuff with Miles, the isolation stuff of Gwen. They didn't go much into Noir's or Ham's stuff, but or the Jake Johnson Spider-Man's issues with coming face to face with MJ again. How strange is that? I mean, they just handled all of those. Like you're mentioning being a good guy, loving, protectable. It's those emotional truisms of character that the movie emphasizes so much, which I think makes this transcend your typical animated movie, your typical superhero movie. It's the weight of the emotional truisms that I believe takes it to another level. And it's because of stuff like that. DC follows that up with, number 42 is the number of the spider that bit Miles in comics. Also, Jackie Robinson's jersey. Also, Stan Lee is in the background, like, a lot. Like, where's Waldo? You know, I think I noticed one time, but I didn't notice it completely. And now I'm asking, I honestly don't know. Do you know, was that the influence of number 42, or was there some other influence, or is that out of the comic books? Honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember. And if that was like a direct reference to a Jackie Robinson, I don't know. But the fact that you picked up on that, I think, is really cool. But I now have to go back and watch, because apparently there are many little Stanley-isms in the background, and I didn't really notice. I think it's just because the whole movie, I'm so completely magnetized to the main stuff going on screen that I just never took my eyes off it. That's a good thing, but it means I got to watch it 5 more times to see all the stuff going on in the background too. So thanks for pointing that out, DC. All right. Grandmaster. Can't help it. Spider-Ham is the coolest. Spider-Ham is great. When he pulls out that giant mallet, I just about died. When he pulls out that giant mallet and he gets into combat, it's like, oh yeah, he is a superhero. He's probably able to kick a lot of ass. But he pulls out that mallet, and I just about choked. I laughed so hard. I mean, he was great. Great comedic timing. Great. I mean, it was just a nice offset. And it's so weird because he's a different animation style from everybody else. And yet somehow it just made sense and it just worked. A pig in a costume. And I remember the first time I saw Spider-Ham in one of the trailers, I chuckled, but I thought, this is never going to work. This is not going to work. And guess what? It worked. And it worked real well. Marie writes, sad Uncle Henry was ultimate prowler. Nice family. I mean, again, I think it was perfect. And you know what? I have no idea how that surprised me. Like when they revealed the uncle was a problem, I was like, oh, wait, what? Like I was shocked that I didn't pick up on that earlier. I should have picked up on that right away. And I'm sure probably a lot of you did pick up on that immediately. That uncle, he's probably that. I didn't. That one, and usually I catch all these things. That one went right by me. So when the reveal happened, it very pleasantly caught me by surprise. Very, very pleasantly caught me by surprise. I like that a lot. And then Marie follows up with a lot of love all around. No kidding, Marie. No kidding. Like, I love it when I get to walk out of a movie. I remember watching The Help with Emma Stone and Octavia Spencer and the terrific cast that was in that. I remember coming out of The Help. I felt like I was walking on clouds. Because I love it when I get to see a movie that reminds me about why I love the movies. And The Help was one of those films for me. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is also one of those films. It's one of those movies that I came out of the theater, the AMC Burbank 16, walking on clouds. Like I was just reminded about why I love the movies and why the movies are so great. And this is one of those movies that reminds you about why you love the movies. You know what I mean? And it was so beautifully done, so wonderfully put together. I just adored it, guys. Just absolutely adored it. All right. Cameron W. writes, best action storytelling, animation, and voice acting I've ever seen / heard in an animated film, as worthy of a Best Picture nomination as Up, Toy Story 3 and Beauty and the Beast. Hold on a second, guys. Give me 1 second here. I will be right back. Just give me one quick second here. I'm sorry about that, guys. I thought my house was on fire. I was smelling something. I'm smelling something. It's like, is my house on fire? No, it's Ray. Ray is downstairs, and he was cooking sesame seeds, and it releases this aroma in the air. So don't mind me. I just thought my house was burning down, but everything's fine. Anyway, let's get back to Cameron here. As worthy of a Best Picture nomination as Up, this Toy Story 3 or Beauty and the Beast, I'm not ready to call, this is just me personally, Cameron, I'm not ready to call Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse like one of the greatest animated films of all time. But I will come along with you to say, in an era where 8, 9, and sometimes 10 movies can get nominated for Best Picture, to me, it is inexcusable. Almost as inexcusable last year when Logan, which was to me the best movie of the year last year. Logan was the best film of the year last year, and it didn't get nominated. It did get nominated for Best Screenplay, and that is a prestigious nomination. That's great, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse should be nominated for Best Picture, and it will not be. It will not be. If any comic book material gets nominated this year, they're going to nominate Black Panther, and it shouldn't be. Black Panther was great, but Avengers Infinity War was better, and I'll tell you what else. This movie was better. Move over Thanos, move over T'Challa, Miles Morales is in town. If there is a comic book movie that gets a Best Picture nomination, it should go for pure quality of the movie. Pure quality of the movie. It should go to Miles Morales and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That's who this nomination should go to. But it won't. It won't. There's just too many politics involved this year. And I get it, and that's fine. I'm not going to raise a big fuss about it. But unfortunately, I think Black Panther is going to get a Best Picture nomination because it's such an important film. Like, Black Panther is maybe one of the most important films of the year. But pure quality-wise, it isn't one of the best. It's great, and I loved it. My third favorite comic book movie of the year. But like I said, it's not even the best comic book movie of the year. It's not even the second best comic book movie of the year. It's like third best comic book movie of the year. I absolutely believe that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse should get a Best Picture nomination, but I also absolutely believe it will not get it. It won't get it, which is a damn shame. It's fine. I'm already angry about it, and it hasn't happened, and I'm already angry about it, but yeah, it's not going to happen, unfortunately. Raymond Verrata writes, the movie is an ode to the old comic book years. It really is in many ways. It had talk balloons and sound effects. I was waiting for Hostess Pie and ads like in the 1970s. You know what else? The Ang Lee Hulk movie tried doing a little bit of that as well. And you can say what you want about that Eric Bana Ang Lee Hulk movie, but one of the things Ang Lee tried to do in that movie was make it feel like a comic book on screen, because he broke it into panels and all that kind of stuff, and it didn't work for some people. That's unfortunate. In an animated format, I think it's going to be much more palatable to a lot of people, like it was for me. I thought that was great. While I may not have been super huge on the art style, the way they were making it feel like a comic book on the screen, I think was terrific. It was a great creative decision. And personally, for me, I thought it paid off. And I thought it paid off well. All right. Roy L. writes, Nicolas Cage voices a character in my two favorite animated movies this year, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Teen Titans Goes to the movies. You know, I still haven't seen Teen Titans Go to the movies because it looked like utter rubbish to me. But then it came out, and a number of people I know said, John, it's actually pretty good. You should check it out. And I just never had the time to check it out. Anne still wants to watch it, though. So one of these nights we'll probably rent it on like Google Play or something like that, and we'll rent it and watch it. But I never did get around to watching that. I totally forgot that Nicolas Cage did a voice in that. But his Spider-Man Noir was wonderful. All was like, and how funny is the thing when he had the Rubik's Cube? Is this blue? Is this blue? Like, because he's black and white. Such a good visual gag. It worked out so well. And yeah, hearing him do that voice was really kind of nice. I enjoyed that a lot. Let's see. Venice Beach Sports Network writes, does not seeing enough of Uncle Aaron count as nitpicking? It's my only gripe with the movie. Let's hope they bring him back. Well, I don't know how you bring him back. I mean, dead is dead. But I mean, hey, it's the multiverse, right? I don't know. Like, let's put it this way, Venice. I don't think that's nitpicking. If that's a problem with the movie for you, then that's a problem with the movie for you. It's not nitpicking. For me, you needed to spend the lion's share of the time on Miles, on Peter, on the dad, on that family dynamic, and I actually thought they used him enough. Now, don't get me wrong. Had they used more Uncle Aaron, I would have been even more into it. I would have enjoyed it. I would have liked to have seen more, but at the same time, what would I have taken away? You know, the answer, everybody always just thinks the answer is just put in more and more and more. No, there's got to be balance. If you're going to put in more, that means you got to take something out. What do you take out? They were very, very budget conscious on Spider-Ham. There really wasn't much Spider-Ham. There really wasn't much Penny Parker. There really wasn't much Aunt May. There really wasn't much. I mean, so, and are you going to take out like one of the scenes between Miles and his dad? I don't know, man. That's the emotional heartbeat of the movie there. I mean, Aaron had some good scenes. Particularly that great scene in the first act of the film when it's just him and Miles in the night out. That was great. So I certainly wouldn't have complained to get more Aaron. But what do you take away to get more Aaron? I felt like the movie had a very good balance. And that includes with how much Uncle Aaron we got. And I felt to give us a really nice bit of balance. The one thing I would say is maybe the first scene between Aaron and his brother, Miles' dad, was when Aaron was dead. Maybe give us one quick flashback scene, whether it was 10 years ago or 1 year ago, of Miles' dad and Miles' uncle. Just show their dynamic so that when Miles' dad finds out that Aaron's dead and he has that breakdown, maybe we as an audience could have felt it a little bit more. Maybe that, but then again, I don't know what you take out of the movie to make room for that. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's an interesting question. All right. Roy L. writes, John, I'm going tomorrow to see Spider-Man for the second time tomorrow, and it is in my top 5 movies of the year and the best animated movie this year. You know, I thought it was a slam dunk. When I saw Incredibles 2, I said, well, let's close the door right now. Incredibles 2 is the best animated film of the year. I hadn't seen Wreck-It Ralph yet, and I love Wreck-It Ralph, but I knew when I saw Incredibles 2, nothing is going to come out this year animated that's going to top this. Because Incredibles 2 is awesome. And then I came out of Spider-Man, and I'm like, nope, not so much for that. It's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And the funny thing is, I don't know if it's going to get it either. I don't know if it's going to get it. It'll get nominated. For sure it'll get nominated. But it'll probably go to Incredibles 2. But if I'm on the Academy, I'm voting for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Even though there shouldn't even be an animated category at the Oscars because it's a participation award, but whatever. Marie writes, sorry, meant Uncle Aaron. Yeah, we got it. Don't worry about that, Marie. We got it. Roy L. follows up. John, I buy digital movies now. I don't really buy physical copies anymore, but for this movie, I want a physical copy as well. Yeah, I'm all digital all the time. I don't buy physical copies unless there's absolutely only something on a physical copy I can absolutely not get on a digital, which really doesn't happen that much anymore. But even then, I don't buy physical. To me, they take up space. They can get damaged. They can get lost. They can get stolen. They can get whatever. I just buy my movies digitally on the cloud, and it's always there no matter where I go. No matter where I am, no matter where I go, my movies go with me, and I just like that. But if this one means that much to you and you want to have that physical copy, you go for it, Roy, because it is that special. It really is that special. All right. Spencer Main writes, Spider-Man 2099 and the pointing Spider-Man meme, LOL. I don't remember that one. Spencer. Maybe that's when I ran to the bathroom. I don't know, but I don't remember that one. Sorry about that. DC Patience writes, Prowler was scary, moved kind of like Spawn. He did, and it had very much a Spawn vibe. I remember thinking that exact same thing, D. When he was first there was something very Spawn-ish about it. Very Nightmare, even the way it moved and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he was great. I was kind of shocked that they killed him for number one, because he was Aaron, but number two, because, man, this is a great villain. Do you really want to kill him off this soon? But he was great, and you're right. All those things, I recognize those exact same things. It's funny how you saw that too. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, would love to see a gritty Spider-Man noir movie. I don't know. See, ZCM, it's one of those things to me where I can't help but wonder, as much as I love Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir, I cannot help but wonder if they are perfect as secondary supporting characters. And that's where they shine, as secondary supporting characters, where you only get them in certain doses so they have big impact when they're there. I cannot help but wonder if a Spider-Ham standalone movie would kind of fall under its own weight, or if a noir movie the shtick would eventually run dry. I'm not saying it would. I'm just saying it's one of those things that I wonder about that, because they work so effectively as side characters. I wonder if that's not exactly where they should be used, but who knows? Maybe they would. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, I like how they added a 3D effect to isolate the focal points of scenes. It makes me curious to see this movie in 3D, even though I don't care for it mostly. Yeah, I hate 3D. I'll never go watch it in 3D. I will never voluntarily go to watch a movie in 3D. Unless it's a press screening and I show up there and they go, by the way, this screening's in 3D. Well, then I have no choice. Otherwise, I'll never go. But it was very interesting how they used that effect. They leveraged several very interesting visual techniques to achieve certain effects, right? And that was absolutely one of them. It wasn't just narrative-wise. Goddamn, just as an entire package, the movie's so innovative. From the narrative to the characters to the visuals to the action, it was just so good. It was just so good, man. All right, let's see. Kyle Luby writes, did you see the Easter eggs on cell phone contact lists? I saw names of Bendis and Ditko. When I buy the movie, I'm going to see who else is there. You know what? I didn't even look. That's one of those things. I was so focused on other things, I did not. I probably missed every single Easter egg in the movie. I probably missed every single freaking Easter egg in this movie. And that, again, just why I got to go back and watch it, maybe even again tonight and go see it again. But now you've pointed this one out to me, Kyle. I'm absolutely going to be watching for that. I will absolutely be. The Ditko one is great. I'm absolutely going to have my eyes peeled for that. Okay. Big jump. Okay. Hey, guys, I'm going to ask you to not send in any more. No one sent in any more super chat questions. I'm going to try to get through the rest of the ones that are here, and then I got to go meet my wife. Marie writes, is that the right one? Am I on the right one? Yes. Marie writes, so Gwen dropped into Miles' timeline earlier than the others, or as the rest just went to Aunt May first instead of the school? Yeah, so somebody brought that up as a potential plot hole. To me, remember, all these Spider-Men showed up in Times Square. But did you notice that when each one of them showed up, the other ones weren't there? See, I think we as an audience just assumed that it all happened at once and they all appeared at the same time. But their origin story about how they each wound up in that New York City has them showing up in the same place, but not seeing any of them. So that means there's a time shift thing going on here where each of them showed up at a different period of time. And I think, at least the way I interpret it, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll go see the movie again and go, oh, that's what they did. But before doing that, my just assumption was that she was the first one to show up in this universe, and it was earlier. Before the event even happened in this universe. That's the wackiness of time travel stuff. So that's how I interpreted it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I saw it, Maria. I might be, but like I said, I might be way off about that. Gio writes, Mrs. Doc Ock loved it. Parker's story was heartfelt. Again, I loved the Doc Ock. I loved the Dr. Octavius thing. And yes, Parker's story was great. And I thought it was very bold. Wait a minute, a Spider-Man story where MJ leaves Peter? What? But again, it gave it that emotional weight. And then something Peter was afraid of. Family, kid, like, God, it's so good. It's so good. Cam Wood writes, I've got good news. We don't need the monitor. Oh, when was that from? I got good news. We don't need the monitor. What part of the movie is that from? I got good news. We don't need the monitor. Oh, yeah. When they were in the When they were running down the hallway. Yes, we don't need the monitor. That was fun. So much in that science lab was so good. So much stuff in that science lab was so good. DC Patience writes, it took 1 year for Lord and Miller to have 10 seconds of film that met their needs. Sony wants to patent how they integrated 2D and 3D techniques. Yeah, I heard about that, DC. Me and Robert were actually talking about that the other day. To me, that's... Look, copyright and patents are great in many ways. They protect an artist's work. They make sure somebody who comes up with something is one. But to me, we found a different way to do 3D with 2D. Patent it. Like, I don't know about that. It's like saying, I found that if I twist my paintbrush this way, it does this effect. I'm going to patent it. No one else can do it. It's like, wait a minute. You didn't come up with paintbrushes and you didn't come up with paint. You shouldn't be allowed to patent and copyright. I twisted the paintbrush this way. That's mine. No one else can do it now. And that's kind of what this feels like. I don't think they should be allowed to do it. So hopefully that's something that doesn't get very far. I hope, at any rate. All right. Trail Shredder 1, Malagon writes, just out of the Spider-Verse, wow. Just wow. Wow, indeed. And I had that... Man, when I came out of Spider-Man, I remember I walked out of the AMC Burbank 16, walked out onto the, right out of the front doors, and I'm standing there at the top of the escalators outside of the front doors, and I just stood there for a few minutes just going, wow. I mean, just wow. It was overwhelming. It was great. I'm glad you had a chance to see it, man. Jordan Marshall writes, probably my favorite scene by a hair was when Miles painted over the original Spider-Man suit, signifying, I think, that he is the Spider-Man of his universe and him taking over the mantle finally. Oh, yeah, there was a lot in that. You know what? If there's any nitpick I would bring to it was I wish that was played out a little bit more. Not just, boom, I had a realization. Spray paint, spray paint, and now I show up as this universe's new Spider-Man. I wish that was drawn out a little bit more, but whatever. They had to get to certain things. They wanted to keep the pace, and I get that. Not my favorite scene. It was a good scene. But again, to me, that scene of Miles in his dorm room and Miles' dad on the other side of the door talking to him through the door. Oh, such a great scene. So great. But you're right, Jordan. I mean, that was the moment that he embraced his destiny. Now, look, this world doesn't have a Spider-Man anymore. Peter's in that universe. Peter's gone. Peter died. And he's gone. And this world needs a Spider-Man. And that moment that he embraces that destiny to become the new Spider-Man in that universe, great scene. Absolutely great scene. And kind of the emotional crescendo of everything he had gone through emotionally in the movie up to that point. So it was beautifully set up through the film, wonderfully executed at the end. Again, my favorite scene is still the dad at the door. Nothing's going to beat that scene for me. But that was also a really, really good scene, Jordan. Absolutely, that was a really good scene. All right, let's see here. Spencer Main writes, that Stan Lee tribute after the mid-credits scene, I didn't see it, so I can't talk about it. I've heard other people say there was one, but I missed it. So now I got to go back and watch it. I wish I could talk about it, but I didn't see it because I was an idiot and didn't think there really would be a post-credit scene. So I just left the theater before the crowd got out. And now I'm really mad that I did that. Sebastian writes, Gwen equals no cash and private school admission/close. Well, clearly, I mean, that's one of those things, Sebastian, where clearly she did something to come up with what she needed to do, but it wasn't important to the movie, right? It wasn't important to the movie. Knowing how she got into that school and knowing how she got the clothes and that's none of that. I mean, clearly there's a story behind that, but was it important to what the main story of the movie was? No, it was inconsequential information that we didn't need to know. All we needed to know is that Gwen was there. She was in that school looking for something, and that's where everything picks up. So clearly there's a story there. We just didn't need to know what it was. That's all. Let's see. Sebastian writes, I'm kidding. Well, there you go. I saw it 3 times. Just enjoy the show. It's so good. And I'm so envious that you got to see it 3 times because I've still only seen it the once. And I've still got to see the post-credit scene 0 times, going back to what Spencer was writing about. So I've still got to see that 0 times. So, yeah, I cannot wait to go see this movie again, and I cannot wait to take people to see it with me. I'm kind of hoping my mom hasn't seen it yet, because I was planning on taking my mom to see Aquaman. I might now be planning on taking my mom to go see Spider-Man. Maybe both. Who says I can't do both? Anyway, Trey Wright writes, what do you think Venom would look like in the alternate? I don't know. I mean, they did some bat crazy things. I mean, with Doc Ock and Scorpion, they really did a different number on that. What would they make Venom look like? Whew, I mean, that's up to the imagination, right? You can do whatever you want. That's kind of the cool thing with the animated stuff, is you can make it look like anything. Anything. They could make that, they could go so wild with, but again, because they have that live action Venom going and they're painting that Venom in a certain way, I don't know that they would use him in a sequel. So I don't know that we'll find out, but if we did, that is one of the things they'd have a lot of fun with, Trey, is how they want to design him. That would be pretty cool. Alex Von Gollum writes, man, the way Miles coped with the 2 to 3 times he walked away when he failed. Wow. I affected my experience a little bit by thinking no movie can touch my Infinity War. Infinity War is still better to me, but it's great. I mean, hey, look, that's the great thing about movies and the subjectivity of them. There's no right or wrong answer here. If Infinity War is still your favorite of the year, then God bless you. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. It's a special movie. It's a great movie. For me, it was all the things that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse did that Infinity War couldn't do. That elevated it for me to being, for me, the better movie of the year. But again, Infinity War is such a special movie, man. I mean, there's absolutely no wrong answer here. For you to like that one more, nothing wrong with it. They're all great movies. They're all great movies. And you know what? So many good comic book movies this year. We've talked about Venom. Ant-Man and the Wasp I thought was great. Black Panther. Infinity War. Aquaman was a hell of a lot of fun. But now this Spider-Man and this Deadpool too. And now we got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. What a great time to be a comic book movie fan. What a great time to be a comic book movie fan. It's amazing. So thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Alex. All right. Where are we? Fub Artistry writes, that's why the director said Tobey Maguire's voice would confuse folks. Pines Parker is different than Raimi verse. I still don't think that would have caused any confusion at all. A guy only doing a voice who hasn't played Spider-Man in like a decade. I honestly just don't think people would have been sitting in theaters going, I don't know what's happening. I'm so confused. Like, I don't know that would have happened. I don't know that would have happened. A guy only doing a voice who hasn't played Spider-Man in like 10 years. I think it's something they could have done. I think I'll go one step further. I think it's something they should have done. I think they should have had Tobey Maguire do that other voice. It would have sounded a little familiar, sure, but we wouldn't have been able to really put our fingers on it, fine. And I think it would have added to it. I just don't think it would have caused this, a black hole is opening up in the middle of my imagination. I don't think it would have caused that much confusion, but that's just me. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that. It's been known to happen. Let's see. Godzilla Fan 111 writes, Miles adapting to his powers and freaking out was brilliant. I loved how he read the original Spider-Man comics to figure out what was going on. That was kind of cool too. I will admit this though, not big on the new powers though. Not big on the invisibility and electro powers. I could have done without that. Be that as it may. All that stuff was absolutely really cool, and it fit in well. It tied in well with the movie. It was really consistent too, and it just, the reading the comic. Now we've seen reading the comic books to figure it out. We've seen other movies use that before. Just recently, Logan, right? The little girl had X-Men comics. I mean, so we've seen that used before, but it felt oddly at home. It felt oddly at home in Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse for that to happen. So I thought that was pretty cool. All right, J Hart RIC writes, Miles' suit reveal is the best scene this year, in my opinion. Well, look, a lot of people are mentioning that. To me, I thought it was a good scene. I don't even know if it's in my top 5 favorite scenes of the movie. But it's definitely a good scene. And that's the great thing about this movie, Jay, is that There are so many great scenes that we can sit here and debate over which was the best. I mean, how great is that? That the movie's so good, we can actually sit here and have a good debate about which scene is the best. Because there are a number of those scenes to me in this thing, and but the suit reveal scene was definitely a great scene. That was definitely a great scene. All right, what are we down to? Last two questions of the afternoon here. Rob Alviar, or Alviller writes, worried it was overhyped, but I loved it. Peter Parker dying just before the Stan Lee cameo made the cameo feel like a tribute to Stan Lee. It really did. It was sad but good. See, that's what I was saying a little bit earlier, Rob, right? Like, I think if somebody watches this, they would be forgiven for thinking, oh, this was made as a tribute to Stan Lee, because that's how it felt. It does not feel like it was something that was made when Stan Lee was still alive. And there's something beautifully poetic about that. And there's something beautiful in the way they executed it as well. So, good on them for that. I just thought that was magnificent. And again, that Stan Lee cameo is so good. The suit always fits. You could write an entire paper about that. The suit always fits. I love that. It was so good. Final question in here today from Nate, who writes, Stan Lee cameo got me, might be my new favorite. I mean, for me, I don't know how anything is ever going to be, because I know Stan Lee's filmed a number of other cameos that we're still going to see over the next year or two. We're obviously going to see a Stan Lee cameo in Captain Marvel. We're going to see a Stan Lee cameo in Avengers 4. We're going to see a Stan Lee cameo in Spider-Man Far From Home. But it's hard for me to imagine liking a Stan Lee cameo more than the first Deadpool movie, Stan Lee, the strip club DJ. You can't buy love, but you can rent it for 3 minutes. I mean, I don't know how anything's ever going to top that. And this one was truly very special, but as special as it was, I don't know if it tops that Deadpool one for me, but it will for a lot of people. And it's the first one we've seen since the passing of Stan Lee, so it's got that added level of specialness to it as well. But it was really heartfelt. It was nicely done. It was done with respect, and I just dug it. I dug it. It was so good. Anyway, guys, that will do it for our open spoiler discussion of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. By the way, I'm very proud of this thumbnail. I hope you guys appreciate the thumbnail that I put together there for you. But anyway, such a great movie. One of the best movies of the year. To me, my number one comic book movie of the year. And regardless of whether you think it's the best movie of the year or the best comic book movie of the year, I think a lot of us can agree it is a hell of a good movie. And such a pleasant surprise for somebody like me, who I wasn't even expecting the movie to be all that good. I wasn't even expecting the movie to be all that good. So thank you guys for joining me here. I hope you guys have a chance to go out and see more. A bunch of you guys have been asking me, hey, why don't we do an Aquaman spoiler review? Because Aquaman hasn't even come out in theaters yet. So after Aquaman comes in theaters, we'll do a spoiler discussion for that as well. Hey, don't forget, guys, we'll be back again tomorrow with the John Campea Show. Me and Robert Meyer Burnett will be back in the studio again there tomorrow. Hope you guys will come back and join us then. That will do it for me. Guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for being film fans. Thanks for sharing your favorite parts of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Thanks for giving me a bunch of things to look for that I didn't even notice, that thing on the phone and all that other stuff. Thank you for giving me a whole bunch of stuff to look forward to the next time I go see it, which might even be later tonight. We'll have to see if I can talk Ann into it. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, with great power comes great responsibility.